Finally, our mission would have not been possible without the support of national staff. They helped us carry out our work not only in the capital, here in Skopje, but also from Tetovo to Ohrid, from Prilep to Kočani, from Kumanovo to Bitola, from Strumica to Veles, just to mention a few of the many municipalities where we have been present. Their observation was minimal, as many of them are now facing financial challenges limiting their ability to continue their vital work. Supporting their continued engagement is crucial for ensuring inclusive and transparent elections also in the future.
Regional democracy in its 46 member states. It represents over 130,000 local and regional authorities. It regularly observes local and regional elections in the Council of Europe member states and beyond. Congress members who observe the elections are local and regional elected representatives themselves. This peer-to-peer mechanism allows us to observe electoral processes in our member states and to monitor the application of common democratic standards at sub-national level. Procedures in close to 72 polling stations across the country from opening until closing. In addition, we followed the counting process in 7 polling stations. The Congress delegation also held preliminary meetings on the 17th and 18th of October with a wide range of key stakeholders, including the election administration, the media, NGOs, the State Secretary of the local self-government, and candidates and representatives of the various political parties, plus independent candidates. The day was well organised and it was assessed positively by Congress observers, and we congratulate the Election Management Board. Voting was calm and orderly, and we were pleased to see the peaceful manner in which it was conducted after a competitive campaign in which a wide range of parties and candidates were motivated to participate. We also welcome that since the last Congress election observation mission, election board members have received a higher standard of training, which has increased the operational capacities of the electoral management boards, alongside their positive efforts to enhance the use of biometric identification. At first hand, and we hope that these can be addressed for the next election, helping to ensure that the starting time is always observed and procedures are not interrupted. North Macedonia is ahead of many other European countries in adopting this technology, and it's well worth every effort to further improve it. Similarly, we saw that some voters needed help to ensure that they put their ballot papers in the right boxes, as the distinguishing colours of the forms were quite pale. We recommend looking at how the distinction can be made even clearer. But we regret that most polling stations were not fully accessible to voters with mobility impairments, despite ongoing efforts by authorities. The authorities should increase their efforts to ensure greater access in practice and as a matter of priority. These are not just procedural points. Addressing them will ensure an even smoother election day and further enhance all voters' experiences. Media outlets. This is intended to improve transparency, complementing the requirement in the Electoral Code for fair media coverage. However, we regret that the current rules around parties' allocation and purchase of media airtime has resulted in the effective exclusion of smaller parties and independent candidates. The absence of local media, particularly outside the capital, is also a major issue, limiting coverage of local issues, which should be central to a local election campaign. Following the 2017 local elections have not been addressed. Certainly, the legal provision supporting gender balance on candidate lists has resulted in the consistent election of women to more than 1/3 of council seats. However, the situation for mayoral candidates is very different, where there is no mechanism to ensure women candidates. This exacerbated by the reality of gender-based violence and intimidation, including physical assault and hate speech online, means that women remain drastically underrepresented. The number of women mayoral candidates and the lack of accessibility for people with disabilities and older people remain serious concerns when it comes to inclusion. The Congress also previously recommended paying further attention to the accuracy of the voters list. It is clear that this remains an issue within the country. Equally, we heard widespread concern about the misuse of state resources in the lead up to the elections in the context of a widely shared perception of corruption. Certainly, this election campaign showed the way in which local issues can be crowded out by national debate in a highly polarised and politicalised environment. To say that yes, vibrant local democracy requires the highest election standards, of course. But it also needs a virtuous circle of good governance, institutions and services that meet local needs and actively engaged people and civil society organisations.
2002 and 2016 and 2024, while in 2020 we could not come due to the COVID pandemic. But this is the first time we observe local elections. This is not common practice for the European Parliament because normally we do not observe local elections. So this is a strong sign of commitment of our institution, which considers North Macedonia and the region of Western Balkans a top political priority and therefore eligible for getting support in all areas of mutual interest. In North Macedonia remain committed to EU membership. We therefore suggest to the newly elected local authorities to advance their country's reform agenda. On a less positive note, we must observe that most ODIHR recommendations of previous election observations are still outstanding. For example, the issue of the voting register. Also, we acknowledge that some interlocutors expressed fear that there have been some irregularities, possible misuse of state resources, pressure on public employees, intimidation of voters, and that all this can happen again for the second round. The counting process, such as a failure to follow the prescribed procedural order. Furthermore, while operations were generally transparent, the tracking of voters and family voting were recurring activities in or near most election boards we visited.